Alright, alright. What's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency today. Going to be taking a look at Litecoin, LTC against USDT. Going to be taking a look at some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some of these key areas of support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here. A breakout is pending. This accumulation phase off of this very strong rejection, this multi tens of percentages downward from some very bullish euphoric levels. We've been sent into a dread of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is flooding the market, causing this crazy accumulation phase that we are nearing a breakout. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Let me know in the comments down below what you think is pending for Litecoin moving forward. Do you think we can break upward and interact with these higher levels that we kind of just came from, or are we going to see some continued downside? Are we going to perhaps fake out and then continue downward to interact with some kind of lower levels that we can perhaps see some more buying opportunities? Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on price action moving forward. Jumping right into it to kind of recap this sort of price action that's interacted with this ascending trend line since the end of October of 2020. We had some crazy accumulation break upward, and then we interacted. This trend line has supported the uptrend up until sort of like the 21st of March of 2021. And so, price action tends to have these very volatile pumps to these downward, consolidation phases. And so price action tends to consolidate in a more downward manner toward support before finding its way back up to the levels at which it came from. And so every time that we have these exhaustion points, we can suspect price action to make its way kind of like to consolidate in a more kind of like bearish manner. And when the uptrend started to fizzle out, if you will, we started to experience some like brief exhaustion. It was when we first kind of broke that descending trend line in like 21st of March started to interact with $176 support level that was resistance at the beginning of January of 2021. We had price action getting rejected off of it. I was like creating these swing highs to bring us down to that $115 support level I have. Ultimately, we consolidated sideways for like a matter of weeks before interacting with that ascending trend line and printing some higher highs. Upon getting rejected off of like swing highs around $245, we fell through this this significant zone that I'll kind of mention more later. The significant kind of area of 207 and 225. We fell through to interact with that $177 level. We printed some lows way below it to like 152, but ultimately started to find support around 177 to rally upward and print some lower highs, getting rejected in that sort of zone there that I mentioned of 226 and 206. We printed a kind of like lower high relative to 246, and so that brought us back to that $177 support line, which was ultimately a higher low relative to the wicks the last time we interacted with that level. And so that was bullish enough to send us past previous resistance to set some higher highs and interact with these kind of upper sort of levels. And so with Litecoin, there does seem to be plenty of kind of take profit levels after these kind of rallies. And so after a pump like this, you can definitely expect a sell-off. And so from a very bullish sort of past few months here, like say from the breakout to that swing high, we're up 741% in just over 200 days. And so if you go to current levels, we're still up 300% in just over 230 days. And so we're still quite bullish, I believe, long term. And a like say from that swing high to the swing low, a 71% correction in what was like a 600 or 700% run in less than a year, I believe, is perhaps like to be expected kind of thing. And so we are still quite bullish. We are still quite overbought. This pullback does seem to be quite healthy for the trend long term, in my opinion. Price action holding this $177 support level is going to be very significant in the short term, and we could expect interaction with these resistances ahead more sooner than later. Although I do suspect price action to kind of make its way downward, and I suspect some more bearish levels to present themselves and some more buying opportunities to arise before we interact with those kind of upper multi-hundred dollar Litecoin levels. So when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with these FIBA Lamborghini lines of zucchinis, martinis, Lamborghinis, and bikinis, we can see a new perspective come into play when we consider, kind of a combination of very strong bullish and bearish suggestions, which is what's causing this like ridiculous sideways. And so when we have these sell for and hell, When this ridiculous candle opened at like 293, wicked down to 147, but closed at like 185. That was definitely enough to print some more bearish suggestions. And so, with those two present, I suspect perhaps with them present, we're going to see some very bearish price action in the midterm until EngineeringRobo goes bullish again. Although we have the 200 daily moving average, the $177 support line, and the 0.382 Fibonacci level at $172, all acting as very strong support just below current levels. We're at $191 at the moment, and so the longer we stay above this sort of like these three sort of levels here, the more short-term and long-term bullish we can be. Price action could very well find its way past these levels, and if we start closing, then we could expect some perhaps prolonged bearish price action between the 177 and that $116 level. We could, if we start to close below those sort of key levels there I was mentioning, like I said, we could have some prolonged sort of like sideways. Fundamentally, I do believe we can make our way upward again in the coming future, although perhaps since we've been so bullish for the past sort of like several months here, perhaps a couple weeks to a month of sideways or relative bearish price action is necessary for the uptrend to continue. But when we consider Litecoin against Bitcoin, we can see a sort of similar perspective come into play when we are returning to these kind of lower levels that we consolidated with kind of prior. We had that break upward, and now we're returning to them upon getting rejected off of significant sort of resistance. I suspect price action to make its way perhaps to that 45.05 Satoshi level, finding support before making its way through this ridiculous space of 51.18 to like 56.26. I believe that's going to be a large zone that we're going to have to blast through, but to gain that momentum, to make it through that zone, I believe interaction, like I said, with that 45.05 level is going to be kind of just necessary first. I do not believe a head and shoulders is forming against the price of Bitcoin. That would ultimately be perhaps quite midterm bearish, in my opinion, as that would be a strong, bearish technical pattern kind of thing, and that does suggest some prolonged kind of downside. And so, but ultimately, price action against the price of Bitcoin at the moment still isn't looking too bearish. We're still looking quite bullish in the long term, especially when we consider EngineeringRobo along with the Fibba Illuminati levels. We can see new perspective come into play when we see that we are well above the 200 daily moving average. So I do suspect perhaps we could return to it and get some more interaction and bounces off of it. The more that we bounce off it, the more bullish we can be long term. We have these crazy sell for, like, hell, sell 2, sell 3, supersell, all the sell signals printed when this ridiculous candle closed at 68, 65, wicked down to 46.15, and then closed at like 50.86 Satoshi. That was definitely more than enough to set the whole trend sideways, and EngineeringRobo definitely got pretty thrown off. That was definitely a quite the anomaly for crypto so far, but ultimately a bullish retracement, in my opinion. We do have the bearish suggestion, so suggesting some perhaps some midterm bearish price action towards these lower levels for Litecoin. We could see some perhaps prolonged phase of sideways and accumulation, but ultimately, as long as we're above that 200 daily moving average, especially against the price of Bitcoin, I do believe the the trend should be up in the long term. The 0.786 is going to be some support that we could interact with just below that 200 daily moving average. I have my support line at 45.07 Satoshi. We have the 0.618 at 51.03 and the 0.5 line at 56.69, correlating with that kind of huge zone of resistance that I was suggesting. And so I suspect price action, if we can break the 0.618 line, we're going to see that 0.5 line shortly after. Strong resistance around 67.16 Satoshi, and rejections off of that level would be the like a more long-term bearish sign, and that would require new analysis. But at the moment, we are still still a phase of accumulation is playing out, a breakout is pending, and there's lots going on. We're definitely at a pivotal state. I suspect perhaps, like I said, return to this Satoshi line there at 45.05. But when we consider Bitcoin itself, we can see what's really going on here. We have support found from that 34K Fibonacci line, price action bouncing between these two zones that I've been suggesting for a couple kind of like few videos now. And so I suspect if we fail to print some like higher highs past like 39K, like 39.9, 40K, like ultimately we need to break like into the 40K range to suspect that we can, come back and blast through that significant resistance around the 200 daily moving average and the 0.618 Fibonacci line at like 41,500. I do believe there's going to be very high sell pressure off of that level, and we could very well see a rejection off of it to bring us right back down to that 0.5 Fibonacci line at 34K. Ultimately, more significant support could be found at 32K. So there's still plenty of downside that could play out potentially. We do have the sell for and supersell present, and so with EngineeringRobo still bearish, I do suspect that we could be short term quite sideways. Ultimately, the fundamentals for Bitcoin are, especially now more than ever, are more bullish than kind of ever before, and I do suspect that we can be bullish enough to make our way back above that 200 daily moving average, but that is going to be a very strong technical bearish indicator at the moment for many traders, and there's going to be resistance present at that 41,500 line at the 0.618 Fibonacci level. And so we could have some multi-$1,000 moves upward and downward over the coming kind of like weeks to perhaps a month or so, as price action kind of needs to figure out where it wants to go as the fear, uncertainty, and doubt clears in the market, as there were probably plenty of perhaps new traders, definitely many of new people getting into crypto and Bitcoin as we were coming up. And so I believe this 50% pullback is probably quite jarring for many new traders, but a 60K to 30K is less daunting when you consider that we just came from like 6K just over a year ago. And so there's lots going on with Bitcoin. Litecoin, do you trade? Do you hold? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you diamond hands through all this crazy sell-off? Are you accumulating more, thinking bullish enough to think that we're going to be back at like all-time highs very soon? Are you bearish? Do you think we're just going to, come back down to that, 20K level and then back to the teen level again? Do you think Bitcoin's coming back to where it came from? Your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Thank you for hearing my analysis. Try EngineeringRobo free with the link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out all the other social media down below and tune in for the next one.